morning, everyone. Today in our People Matter show, we have a very special guest, and he is one of the most recognized individuals in the real estate industry for decades. And I'm talking about Chris Heller. He built one of the most successful real estate teams in the United States and run for many years Kelly Williams International. He now is CEO of Lab Ojo. And Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you actually started in the real estate industry all the way to today? Just give us a summary of your amazing career.
All right. It started a long time ago. I was a sophomore in college. My dad called me one day and said, "You're going to get your real estate license and come up to Lake Tahoe, where he was living, and work for the summer." And there was going to be a job selling timeshares, vacation intervals. And I did that. And then later that summer, he got an opportunity to move to San Diego and manage a resort there. So I went with him. And then that summer job turned into a 3-year job of me doing that. Along the way, I met a real estate broker who, for 3 years, recruited me and tried to get me to come into real estate. He caught me at a weak moment. I said, okay, I'll give it a try. That first year, I sold 27 homes. I was Rookie of the Year in San Diego. Kept growing my business. As my business grew, I needed to add people to help me. The concept of real estate teams didn't exist back then. Having an assistant was like not very common at all. But that was the only way I could leverage myself to keep doing more, which I wanted to do. He was part of a franchise organization that had about 37,000 agents in the U.S. Quickly became one of the top 10 in the U.S. After 16 years there, I made a move and joined Keller Williams and started Keller Williams in San Diego. Opened up several franchises. 2009, I was the #1 Keller Williams agent in North America. In 2010, I took an executive position with the company. They decided that they wanted to start to go international, and they wanted me to lead that effort. For the next 5 years, opened Keller Williams in 20-some different countries, including Mexico, and then ultimately became the CEO of the company. During that time, we doubled the size of the company. We doubled our profitability. After being there about 13 to 14 years, I left. I did take some time off, about 6 months. I ultimately met another billionaire founder of a company called Loan Depot, which is at the time the second largest non-bank lender in the U.S. Joined them, became the CEO of their sister company. All the while, I was very involved with real estate technology, like as early as 1999, 2000, building real estate products. I was an advisor and an investor in several companies. One of the companies I was on the board of is a company here in Austin, Ojo Labs. In 2019, they said, "Hey, we could use you full time. Would you consider making a move?" And I did. I became the president of this company. In 2020, we bought Movoto.com, which is the 5th largest real estate portal, search portal. It's the largest privately owned one. The 4 larger ones are public companies. And we run a business where we introduce consumers to real estate agents and loan officers to help them buy and finance their properties.
That's
So that's
awesome.
the quick timeline.
So I see that now you own you're involved in multiple businesses. And let's start with one of them is the Heller, the home seller. Tell us about that. Is that a different business? And what's the focus into this business?
That's my real estate team. That's the business. I started in 1989 as an individual agent. It grew into a team. In 2010, when I joined Keller Williams, I stepped out of the day-to-day operations of that team. I still own it. I still meet with them once a week. I still, communicate, through text and Slack. But that business for the last 15 years has continued to go and grow without me involved in the daily operations. So it's a team in San Diego that helps a lot of people in San Diego buy and sell homes.
That's nice, very nice. Are you also involved still in different channels, mortgage, title? Do you still have different services that you offer to clients or only real estate?
Yeah, so with the real estate team, we have partnerships with mortgage and title companies. In the primary business I'm at in this office with Movoto.com, we have about 70 million unique visitors a year that come to our site. We are making tens of thousands of introductions on a monthly basis to mortgage companies and real estate companies and connecting those consumers. So yeah, I am involved with a lot of mortgage companies and a lot of different companies in our industry just based on the business that we're in.
Interesting. Now, tell us about the company that you have now, Ojo. First of all, tell us about the name. How is that? What is that? How the name Ojo came, and what is it coming from, and what exactly you guys do?
Yeah, so I'd like to tell you that it has a that's a meaningful name. The name was so when the company was founded, it had nothing to do with real estate, and it was a company that was the idea was to create insights for consumers and to be able to monitor consumer activity. And there were the idea of having beacons in retail businesses and be able to map where people are going and what they're doing. And the original name was called Map Mojo. Then when I met the founder in 2016, and it sort of pivoted and we're getting into artificial intelligence, and they weren't sure what industry they were going to work in. After we met, the decision was, okay, real estate is the industry. And then they had to come up with a new name because Map Mojo didn't make sense. The story is that the name was written on a whiteboard, and someone was standing in front of the M, and so he could only see the Ojo, and he said, all right, that's the name. That's how the name was created. Our site, Movoto.com, was a site that's been around now for 15 years. So that was an existing site, an existing URL. So Google loves it. We have a lot of organic traffic, so we didn't change that.
So tell us about the technology behind Ojo. I see that you refer to it as a first truly conversational assistant for your home transaction experience. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so initially, back in 2016-17, it was we were a little ahead of our time, unfortunately, because we were working on and created and have a lot of patents around machine learning and creating an artificial intelligent advisor, essentially a chat bot that could communicate via SMS with a consumer. Some of our patents were around real-time learning, where if a consumer was communicating with us and they asked a question that the machine couldn't answer, it would quickly switch over to what we called an AI trainer, a human, who would jump into the conversation and be able to continue that communication. There were a lot of applications for that. In 2019, we presented with an opportunity to acquire a company, and then the pandemic hit. And it was a company that we acquired, which was Movoto.com, which again at the time was the 5th largest portal in the country, right? So you have Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Redfin, and then Movoto. And it was just because of the pandemic that we were able to acquire it. It was early in the pandemic. No one knew what was going to be happening. Everyone thought, the world might be coming to an end. All the big companies were not doing anything. We were a small, scrappy startup, and we saw an opportunity where we could buy this company before anyone else would. If we were competing with those big companies for it, we wouldn't be able to compete. But since none of them were thinking about buying, this was very early in the pandemic. This was like when the pandemic was starting, March, April, May. We closed in June. So it was just an opportunity that we were able to jump on. When we bought Movoto.com, we pivoted the business to more of a marketplace business where we have consumers that are on the site that have needs. They want to find a home, they want to see a home, they want to see what their home's worth, and then matching those with a network of agents and real estate teams that we've curated to be able to help them on the other side of that marketplace.
So, what is your vision with Ojo? And I mean, it seems like you have a great platform, a lot of traffic, a lot of visitors, a lot of people using it. So, what is the vision? What's next?
Elliot, we think there's a lot of opportunity. One of the things that we believe is partnering with a large national mortgage company is a natural partnership to be able to provide mortgage services. Right now, we help a lot of people buy and sell homes through the network of real estate teams and agents that we partner with. If we can add mortgage and some of the other services into into the mix, then we have an opportunity to create something significant.
Especially with the traffic that you have. And so let's talk about industry. Real estate is being under the scope for the last for the last 12 months, a lot of challenges, a lot of different changes on the way of doing transactions for real estate agents. Uh, so how does, in your opinion, how did it affected the whole change on commissions and the way that agents should be disclosing now commissions and the way that agents should be paid as well? Do you think that that really affected the industry? No. What's been your uh,
Yeah,
what
like
have you
it's
seen in the industry?
yeah, it's so that's just like, and you say the last 12 months. We've had like 3 years of a lot of change in a very challenging market. And that specific change, yes, it's impacted the industry, but it hasn't fundamentally changed the industry, nor did I don't think anyone really thought it would. It changed how agents operate, the conversations they have, the process that they go through when they're helping someone buy or sell a home. What it doesn't change is that agents are still a vital part of that process, right? Most buyers want, need, and value having a trusted advisor. Most sellers still see the value in offering incentives to a buyer or to the buyer's agent to have them try to sell their home. So we've seen, there's been continuous downward pressure on commissions for almost a decade, right? Not significant, but steady. This has probably accelerated that a little bit, but only to a certain extent. There are still market dynamics that will keep commissions at a certain level because there's value to what agents do and what they bring to the transaction, and people want and are willing to pay for that value. Now, the other thing that's been impacted by this is that the agents that aren't experienced, aren't skilled, or don't really provide value are having and will have a much tougher time in the business. And that's not a bad thing.
Which is 75% of the agents, right?
Yeah, it's a you know like, there's a percentage of those that are on their way out and they may not know it, and there's a percentage of those that are on their way up and they'll be fine. But there's a lot of them that haven't developed the skills or created enough situations where they have the experience to really be able to have a impactful conversation or an impactful interaction. The days of a consumer just hiring any agent that they meet because they can and because the market's so strong are over. So now it's, as a consumer, I'm going to be much more discerning, and especially if I'm going to be signing an agreement to have someone represent me, I'm going to be more discerning in that decision.
Is with the experience that you have, I mean, you were a top producer for many years and you build amazing teams. What would you tell a young entrepreneur, someone that just got in the business and they want to conquer the world? What advice would you give them today?
Yeah, I think if they're getting into the business, there's a lot of ways to do this business. There's two general paths that they could take. One is to go on their own and build their own business. The other is to join a team and be part of building a business. One's not necessarily better than the other, they're just different. And so the first thing I would say is, choose the path and choose the right path for you. Look, if you are fiercely independent and driven and willing to do whatever it takes and you want to build your business, you should go do that. If you enjoy winning as a team and being part of a team and the team dynamics and the ability to specialize in certain aspects of the business, then that may be a better path for you. In either case, the other pieces of advice I would give is there's a lot of ways to get business in our industry, and there's new ways being created all the time. Some being created because of the advancement of technology, and others just because things evolve. The biggest challenge new agents have is that there's so much, and there's so many things that they see and they learn about. Instead of trying to do a bunch of things, my strong advice is pick one or two things that you're going to focus on to get business, and then get really good at those one or two things before you add a third or a fourth thing. So that's one piece. The second piece I'd say is treat, all the agents in our industry are independent contractors, right? Even if they work for a brokerage or they work for a team, they're still an independent contractor. Don't act like one. Treat it like you have a job. In a job, you have a schedule, you have a plan, you have goals, you have things you have to do. Operate that way, and you'll grow much faster than what most agents do.
That's great advice. Now, you talk about value, and I truly believe that when you have a strong value that you can offer to the clients, you make a difference. But in today's world, especially in real estate, value doesn't mean anymore just providing a good service, like answering phone calls or texts or picking up the phone. What else would you advise people to, what kind of value would you advise people to master or to add to their services?
Yeah, yeah, Miguel, it's a great question, and I agree with you. The things that I think we used to think of value are now just table stakes or assumed, right? Good customer service isn't an option; it's a necessity. But good customer service isn't providing value because it's expected, right? We all expect that. If I buy something online and I'm trying to return it, I expect it to be really easy because most of the time, especially if I did it on Amazon, it is really easy. If I'm on another site and they make it challenging or difficult, then the chances of me doing business on that site again are very slim. Expectations of consumers are very high and continue to get higher because of the advancements of technology, right? We all have, our expectations are all higher. So value is not so much customer service. That's expected. I mean, that's if you're not providing a high level of that, you're not even in the game. It's more of providing a great experience, right? Because that's what we've all come to expect. When I want to book a flight, I want to be able to do it very quickly, very easily on my phone in a matter of minutes. If I need to change my flight, I want to be able to do that. And I can. We have to make sure that we're providing an experience that is as seamless as that. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is, and going back to that word value, is as a consumer, I can get information anywhere, right? And now with AI and all the different tools, ChatGPT, Perplexity, DeepSeek, you name it, I can get even more and better information than I've ever been able to get. What it's hard for me to get as a consumer is that hyper-local information. If I'm buying a house in New Jersey and I don't know the neighborhoods well, and I don't know the difference between Summit and Morristown and some of the other areas, and the houses look the same, they're about the same price. I need someone that says, well, Chris, wait, for what you want, or for where you're working, or for the age of your kids, or based on you said this is important to you, this is where you should focus. I need that local expertise. So as agents, we have to be providing that. The second thing is there are more and more ways for me as a consumer to be able to transact, whether it's buying or selling a home. Right? How I find homes, how I buy them, whether I'm financing, whether I'm using a buy before you sell platform, or someone's helping me be a cash buyer and then I'm financing afterwards. There's a lot of different things. For sellers, there's guaranteed sales, there's instant offers, there's cash offers, there's iBuying. I have all these options as a consumer that I didn't maybe have 5 or 10 years ago. It's incumbent upon the agents to be the ones that providing those options and delivering that value. Because if they aren't, as a consumer, I'm going to get them somewhere else, right? I'm going to be contacted by one of these companies. I'm going to be able to use one of those companies for us. The bar has been raised and will continue to be raised for agents to provide real value. Something that I can't get by asking ChatGPT or Google
Makes sense.
because I can do that on my own, right? And
Right.
if I can do that, then why do I need someone to help me? I need help with the things I can't get by doing.
So for those people already in the business for many years that they want to build their team, and you're a master at this, you have a successful team running by itself for many years. You run the most successful real estate team maybe in the history of the industry. What kind of advice would you give them? Number one, to attract realtors, to build their support team. What kind of advice would you give them? What lessons can you share?
Yeah, a lot of lessons. There's a couple key like foundational pieces that you have to build a successful team. One is you have to have really good systems and processes, right? It's like a sports team. There's players come and go. They get traded, they get drafted, they retire, but the team has a system and a process for everything they do, right? They have a system for bringing on new players. They have a system for developing those players. They have a system for training those players. They have a playbook that they're going to execute to win the games. Using that analogy, the same things apply to business and to real estate teams. So you need to have those systems and those processes. The other thing you need is talent. You need very talented people. If you're the most talented person on the team, you're limited by yourself, right? You're the lid that you're going to bump up against. Now, no one is great at everything. All right. Look, again, use a sports team, baseball, football, soccer, you name it. There's positions, and the goal is to have the best people at each position. You don't have one person that's great at all those. That's very rare, and we hardly ever see that. So you want to attract the most talented people you can. People that are as good as you or better than you at the things they do. Now, how do you attract those talented people? You have to have a big enough business where you can create opportunities for them, because talented people want opportunity, right? They want opportunity to grow. They want opportunity to advance. They want opportunity to improve. And if you're not providing those people will go elsewhere. So we could talk a lot about this topic, but those are some of the basics that someone needs to think about who wants to build and develop a team.
Great. Now, I mean, I seen on your, obviously, the experience that you have, technology is one of your main focuses. Obviously, you manage and you run a company that is technology based now. What kind of advice would you give to real estate professionals? Where should they focus more if they want to use technology? And the question is, there is a lot of technologies out there, that hundreds of them. And the problem with technology is adoption. And like you said it before, the problem is people start just trying this, and then next month they try this. Where should they start to perfect and to use technology for real
Yeah,
estate?
the first thing is their database, their CRM. The goal of every agent or a team is to build a big database of people you know, or people that know you, or people you've done business with, or people you want to do business with, and then use that technology and leverage that technology to provide value to those people and to stay top of mind with those people. So that's the first piece, right? And out of, there's marketing platforms, there's social media platforms, there's transaction platforms. There's a platform for everything in this business. But the centerpiece, the core piece of that is your database, your CRM. And so before you start adding on all those other things, perfect that. Make sure that is set up the right way. Make sure you're optimizing the tools and the functionality to its fullest, so that you're staying in not just in touch, but you're able to stay top of mind and provide value on an ongoing basis to the people that you have and want to do business with. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, hands down, is AI. I live about 2 miles from my office here, and I walk to work, except the summertime when it's dangerous because it's so hot. But as I was walking this morning, I texted 3 of the leaders on my real estate team in San Diego and said, how often on a daily basis are you leveraging AI? I said, I think I save about 2 hours a day. If I look back over like the last 90 days because of AI, because of the ways I leverage it and I use it. And then I gave them some examples, like, are you using it for this? Are you using it for that? And I sent that message because I want them to be thinking, okay, oh gosh, I could be, or yeah, I forgot about it. Right? It's not, for some of us, we're using it on so much that it's becoming part of our routine. But for many, they've tried it. They played around with it. It's a neat thing. It's like a party trick. Look what it can do. Look what I did. But they haven't really started to leverage it in a meaningful way and incorporate it in their daily activities and daily lives. And that's a huge opportunity, because it allows us to do so much more. I keep using the word leverage, but it creates leverage so that we can have more time and be more effective in the things that we are doing.
Right. On the first one, on the database, I think it's so vital, so basic, that people should master that. And a couple of people that I interviewed before, when I asked them about some of the things that they regret in the past, and the answer was not starting to build their database on time, and they lost a lot of it. And that's a very common mistake, I would say. A lot of professionals don't pay attention to really start forcing themselves to manage that database and build that database on a daily, monthly, yearly basis. That's a great advice. Well, obviously, technology is in the front page every single day, and especially in our industries, trying to put in front of realtors different technologies. AI, like you mentioned, it's important, and it is said that in the next 10, 15 years, every most humans will have an AI agent next to us to help us to be more efficient. There will be billions of AI agents basically throughout the world. Now, you mentioned AI, and I'm glad that you did. How AI is new. It's new for most people. Not say new, the last 2, 3 years, but it's not new in technology. However, what would you recommend to them? What type of steps should they be doing to start incorporating activities with AI?
The first is just to get familiar and comfortable, right? Whenever there's a new technology or a new habit you're trying to create, it takes repetition, right? And getting used to using it. It's creating new habits. It's building new muscles to create those habits. And so just start using it on a regular basis, a daily basis. And then you'll start to discover better ways and more effective ways to use it. It's, um, it's just like the prompts we use for AI, right? If we're in whatever platform, Gemini, ChatGPT, you name it. The better you get at the questions and the prompts that you use, the more value you can get from the machine. And that just comes with practice and time. So the first thing I would do is just put it into your schedule. Schedule dedicated time to work on. Now maybe it's going to be, hey, for an hour a day, I'm going to use it to improve all my correspondence, all my emails, all my campaigns, to improve them, to write new ones, to create new ones. Maybe I'm going to use it to create checklists, to create standard operating procedures for price reduction, for a walkthrough, for a onboarding a new agent, whatever it is. You got to be purposeful in using it, not just every once in a while when someone says, "Oh yeah, I use ChatGPT for this. I could have done that, or I should start doing that. I should think about that." Of course, but the only way it's going to happen is if you okay, I'm gonna put time and energy into this so that I can leverage it. I heard someone say something recently. I think it's probably there's a lot of truth to it, and that is there's a lot of people that are fearful, or you hear talk about AI replacing people and replacing jobs. That may happen in some situations, but I think what will happen in almost all situations is it's the people that are leveraging AI will be replacing people and jobs, and it'll be
Managers, you know?
replacing the ones that aren't.
Right, right. Totally agree. So let's go back to your technology, Movoto, I think it is, right? And you gave us a little bit of scope, what exactly it does, but how are you making a difference with your competitors? And there's a few platforms out there. I'm not going to mention names, but what are you guys doing to make a difference?
Yeah, look, we all have the same information for the most part. We all have homes and the homes that are for sale available and homes that have sold for references and those type of things. The difference is things like speed, like ease of use, like simplicity. Those are the things that we try to focus on and make it just an easier place to do what you want to do, whether it's just browse homes, whether it's find a specific home, whether it's to figure out what your home is worth. So those are the things that we're always looking at. But beyond that, I think the biggest differentiator for us is we're real estate people. We're real estate practitioners. We aren't, we didn't come from other businesses and building technology. We understand at the deepest level what the consumer experience is like because we've worked with consumers for years and years and years. We understand what the agent experience is like because we are agents. We understand what's valuable to real estate teams and agents. So I think one of our advantages is that we are, and I wish there was a better term I could think of because I think this term gets used too much, but I think we're simply more agent and team friendly than our competitors because we are agents and teams.
That's awesome. So looking back on your experience, I mean, obviously you built a great team, a great career, and after achieving so much success, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going?
Good question. I've been asked that before, and I don't have a pat answer. I have multiple answers. But one is I'm never satisfied, and I don't mean that in a negative way where I don't appreciate things. I appreciate a lot of things. But I always believe that I can be better. I believe there's more for me to learn. There's more for me to accomplish, and there's more that I want to do. I still have that burning desire that I had in my 20s is still there, to build things, to achieve things. And maybe most of all is I like to compete and I like to win. It's
That's
fun.
it. That's
This is
it
a,
right there.
yeah, this is I view this is a game, the game that I chose to play. I could be doing something else. I could be doing nothing, but I'm choosing to play this game. So if I'm going to play, then I want to win.
That's great. I think that's what it is. So what would you do differently on everything that you've done in the past? Is there anything that you can remember, say, gosh, I would have just done it differently. I would have just based on what you know now. Is there anything?
Okay, there's a really a really long list.
Is
I
there
don't.
something that you can remember that they say,
Yeah, so
I mean,
there's,
shit, I wouldn't done that. I should have not done it. Or
but here's where I get stuck with that question.
yeah,
I have made more mistakes than most people could ever imagine making. Because the more you do, I mean, you don't accomplish anything without making lots of mistakes. Quite frankly, the more mistakes you make, the more you're going to grow and learn. So, it'd be easy to go back and say, oh, yeah, I made this mistake and I wish I wouldn't have done that. But at the same time, I learned from every one of those. I got better because of every one of those. So would I want to change that? No. Do I? Look, there were consequences from some of my mistakes that I wish didn't happen, right? Whether it was financial losses or people losses or relationships that should have gone in a different way. Yeah, I would like to have those not happen, but in every one of those situations, there were great lessons and there was a lot of growth. And so I think that's part of life.
I totally agree. I mean, I always tell people, look, there's no mistakes, there's only lessons, and you just keep going. And one of the reasons for this show is for people to learn from other people's mistakes, and we can, if they listen to it, because most people don't listen. That's the truth. Everyone has to go through their own path, and so it's always good to hear those. What is next for you now, Chris? What's in your 10, 20 year map? What does it look like for you?
Yeah, like for the there is the reality of age and the amount of time that any of us may have, and we never know how much time we have. But like for the next 5 to 10 years, I want to do something that I can just go all out with people that I like to spend time with, that I really enjoy and respect and trust. And at some point, I'm sure I'll say, "Hey, I don't want to be in the grind every day like I am now." And then I'll just focus on helping others and helping other companies and helping other leaders and entrepreneurs achieve and share the things I've learned so that they can avoid some of the mistakes I've made and do that. So I'm sure there'll be a transition at some point into more mentoring and advising and board roles. But for now, and I still do some of that on the side and have, but for now, I want to build and compete.
Keep building and keep competing. That keeps you going. I have to go back to the question again because I think it's very important for the audience to. Can you try to remember something challenging for you in the last 30 years? Challenging that you can remember says, "Oh God, I mean, this was tough and I did it," or something that you can tell the audience, based on my experience, you should never do this.
Yeah.
Either one.
Okay, there's lots of, there's, as I said, we could talk days on all of them. All right, so early in my career, I was not a good leader. I was not a good manager. I didn't know what it meant to be a good leader. Nor did I think early in my career, did I think I needed to be. It was more of, gosh, everyone should just be motivated and driven like I am. And everyone, and if they're not, then there's something wrong. That's not, that's not reality. And so I made the mistake of, when I look back, I've always attracted really good people, and I'm not percent sure why, but that's never been a challenge for me. But early in my career, I burned a lot of those people, or burned them out, because I didn't lead well, I didn't manage well, I didn't acknowledge people, I didn't give them the things they needed, because I was so focused and driven and everything else. So I lost a lot of good people, and then finally came to the realization that, why does this keep happening? And I always look, yeah, I always look in the mirror first, and what I, quickly came to was that I was the common denominator. And so then it was a very focused effort on becoming a leader and becoming a good leader. And I still focus and work on that every day. So that was a mistake. There were mistakes. I've worked on teams where, and this is a really important one, where it's like relationships when you're working with people, right? And they are relationships, not like relationships, but they're like a personal relationship. If you're not in a good relationship, it doesn't matter what you try or what you do. If it's not a good relationship, it's not a good relationship. And there were times where I was in relationships in a business or in a team or in a role with other leaders and kept trying to fix things or make things better and everywhere else, and instead of just realizing, hey, this is not healthy. These are not people that you can trust, and these are not people that respect or like me, or trust me. So instead of trying to keep making it work and everything else, it's like just discovering it's not the right fit.
Let it go. Yeah. So wrong people in the wrong place in the wrong bus seat. So thank you for sharing those memories. And Chris, we're running out of time, but I do want to, first of all, thanks for being part of the show, for your time, for your sharing all the wisdom, all your insights about the industry, and also sharing memories at the end that I hope many people can listen to and can learn from it. The last question I have for you, I mean, in a personal note, as a leader, of family man, and an entrepreneur, what would you tell the young Chris at a personal level? What would you tell the young Chris 35 years ago, 30 years ago,
You
based
know,
on all of the experience that you have now? What would you tell him?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. I actually wrote a book a couple of years ago, and I wrote it for young people, and it's called Dominant Thoughts. And I'm not sharing that as a commercial, but that's why I wrote the book, for my kids and for other young people starting off in business to learn the lessons I've learned. So and that came to mind when you asked me that question. So some of those things that I would wish I learned, I've learned them all over the years, but wish I learned really early on. And these are not in order of importance, but not worrying about what other people think of me. I wasted a lot of time, a lot of energy, and didn't do things because I was worried about what people would think and what they would think about me. And learning that it doesn't really matter, nor can you control what other people think or judge or do. They're going to do that. So that's one. Don't be stopped by that. Another thing is not being attached to the outcome. Like if I could have learned that earlier on, of being committed, like I want this to happen. I'm committed to this happen, but not being attached to it. When you're attached to it, it affects you emotionally. You feel it in your gut. You hold on too tight. You sometimes say or do things that you shouldn't say or do, out of desperation or whatever it may be. So being committed instead of attached is another thing. Another is, really understand. It's I think it's a cliche for a lot of people, but really understand you can achieve anything you want if you're willing to do what it takes. And then the question you have to ask yourself is, am I willing to do what it takes? And then the next question is, are you going to do it every day, even on the days you don't feel like it and you don't want to? Because that's the difference between, average and great. So there's a long list, but those are a few of the ones that are top of mind.
Chris, we've run out of time, but once again, I appreciate the time and all of your amazing advice that you're giving to our community here. Thanks for being on the show. I hope that we can have you again.
Thank you. Would love to, Miguel. Appreciate it.
And this was the People Matter Show. We'll see you next time.